Do you want to know the one thing that I fail miserably at as a leader? And I'm asking this rhetorically, even as I think through how I'm going to answer this. You may or may not understand the irony in what I'm about to share, but I'm going to tell you. One of the things that I fail miserably at is the concept of asking powerful questions. And I say that given the fact that I've got an entire mini card deck here in my office and another that I carry with me that I have access to these questions all the time. Now, let me frame it this way. And I started with this particular card. A powerful question puts a halt to evasion and confusion. By asking powerful questions, the coach invites the client to clarity, action, and discovery at a whole new level. This is a tool for leaders that really enables us to get to a better understanding of where people are struggling, myself included. And this is the reason why, this is a rhetorical conversation that I should be having with myself regularly, and I should be reviewing these cards. In fact, I guess this is going to be one of the challenges going into the remainder of the year, and these are not difficult questions to answer by any stretch of the imagination. What is stopping you? Me, myself, my ego, my psychological frailty, knowing that I could fail. Wait, hold on. Knowing that I could fail. Now that's an interesting framing of things. So am I failing, or am I just learning what not to do the next time I run this experiment? What is your prediction? So, shifting that from, hey, I'm failing, to guess what? Now I get to try and predict. I get to lay out a hypothesis and associate that with a predicted outcome. And whether or not I achieve it, that's one of those things that, through the effort of being empirical and using empirical process control, I can determine whether or not I got the results that I wanted. I find things like this to be both a wonderful tool that enables growth and development, but I also find it to be a mirror, which, when I'm reflecting on when I'm reflecting on how I would like to answer versus how I normally do answer these types of questions, I'm embarrassed. Pure and simple. I am embarrassed. And I'm embarrassed really because I don't think I give myself enough time for due consideration. I think that I react to the question rather than respond to the question. I don't really reflect. I don't want to assume that I'm the only one who struggles with this. I'm just bearing my soul in a sense when I share these things in a very public fashion in these recordings, to let you know that as a leader, I stumble probably more than I ought. Especially at this point with life experience and everything else, it's still a struggle. And I don't think that goes away from the standpoint of trying to do the right thing for people, by people, understanding that sometimes the right thing, or what I believe the right thing is, may not be the right thing for the individual. And powerful questions hopefully act as a way to neutralize objection, a way to diffuse the natural defenses, because myself and the person I'm talking to, I'm walking into it with a degree of positive intent just to help them explore what the options are for themselves. In addition, these are the things that I need to be able to explore for myself. This is key and critical to just human growth in general. let alone building the right types of skills professionally to be able to navigate a very challenging business environment. I have a recording on the channel that speaks specifically to the concept of VUCA: volatile, uncertain, complicated, and ambiguous, or complex and ambiguous, depending upon who you talk to. And, it hasn't gotten any easier over the course of time. In fact, I could probably have an entire multi-hour treatise about how much more challenging it is to make good decisions, do relatively accurate forecasting, let alone look at where future investments need to be made business-wise. So these things, these questions as a leader are something that I would encourage you, and I'm saying this to myself, I'm talking to myself when I'm recording this, that we should consider as something to review frequently, routinely, to ask ourselves and to have others that we trust ask of us. This is the thing. None of it's easy. All of it's difficult. But at the end, growth is that way. At the end, we don't become better people without a degree of struggle. And I think there's a lot of myths around this whole kind of, you instantly wake up one morning and you're the best leader ever because, that's what we're being sold on social media. I don't take that seriously. I think it's like, to use a term that's probably fallen out of favor, that's like selling snake oil. People are well-meaning and they think that there's a quick fix, when in truth, it's a difficult road. There are accelerators. There are ways, of achieving a desired outcome, but does that deliberate habit and that well-practiced response emerge every single time a similar situation occurs? Without that growth, without a few skinned knees and scraped elbows, none of us get to a point where we're even remotely proficient at leadership, let alone self-leadership. And this is the thing. So little things like these powerful questions work as an excellent focal point for us to consider in our conversations with our peers, in our conversations with the people who are working with us, in our conversations with the people that we're accountable to and responsible to. And that's a thing that any one of us can, if we're willing, roll up our sleeves, get to work, and become better at. And this is, one of these areas where I know I need to work. This is the reason why I'm recording the video. And so this is a degree of external accountability, even for me, to say, look, I don't want you to hold my feet to the fire, but I definitely want you to go, hey, how is your effort with applying and answering powerful questions going for you? And you may get one of those, oh yeah, kind of, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but that's okay. Because if this one video, if this is the video that you watched this year, and you look at it and you go, wow, I can really identify with what Tim is saying, and there's a resonance, there's a connection, then I've done my job. I've done my job in recording these. I've done my job in investing time to share the things that I'm good at, the things that I'm not so good at, the stories that I've got to tell. That is a benefit to both of us. So if you're not aware of these things, this concept of powerful questions, I know the International Coaching Federation is a big proponent of this. Go and take a look at their website and download copies of that. I think Coactive Coaching is also another organization that uses powerful questions in its effort to co-create, which is bringing two people together to work on something that they are able to say, hey, we brought this out into the world. And, this whole concept of coactive and co-creative coaching is really great because it unlocks something, hopefully, in both the coach as well as the coachee. So powerful questions, that's my thought for the day. So it's not necessarily a normal story like you've been seeing here over the last few months, but something that I was digging around in my toolbox of coaching things. And I went, this is worth hearing. This is worth recording a video and putting the spotlight on myself and saying, I'm not doing really great on this, but I wanted to set that baseline and build up from there. And my hope is that you're inspired to do your own research and see if this is something that you want to add to your toolbox. And then subsequently, get better at it, which is where I'm at. I need to get better at it. These open-ended questions, man, I fail. You could probably ask my colleagues and the members of my team, how well does Tim do at asking powerful questions? They'll probably say, not so good. But then again, I also understand that there's an element in this that because of the discomfort, because of the candor in which I share, this may be very helpful in, just getting this into the space and into the right places, into the right rooms, as it were, for the benefit of making us all better as leaders. So you just wrapped up a life lesson learned of, many that I've shared in my series here on TimUnscripted. And I hope that powerful questions become part of the approach that you use when you're working with your own team. Take care.